Hi everyone. Today in this video, I want to talk about a little bit more about those who are awakened or are awakening that they need to give back to society or they want to become more generous in life. Now, in my first video on the same topic, which I had made earlier, in that I had suggested some strategies for those who are maybe leading a average middle class life, those who haven't had a generous upbringing and they have a little harder time in giving something to another. But say you are already a very generous person in your daily life, then what are you supposed to do when you are awakening? There are some people I saw online on different channels in international countries where people having a little bit more affluent life than India are prone towards being more generous to the poor, right? So because if you have affluence, if you have enough, many of those people who are just maybe the children of a rich person, they are awakening to the fact that and they should be awakening to that, because that is the purpose of the next generation. If one generation has been doing a lot of hard work, lot of labor, if a one or two or three generations did that, then the next person in the family who is to be born has to become a little bit more relaxed than the previous generations. They have to become less about work, more about what the work has generated that needs to be cleared or needs to be shifted or needs to be changed or needs to be repurposed. So, generosity, that's why, excuse me, can come from different aspects of generosity and different aspects of giving. Giving is not simply giving someone money. Giving can be giving someone kindness. That's why, if say you are economically poor and not as rich as someone else, it's not that you stop being a generous person if you are poor. You can continue being a generous person even when you are poor, but your generosity then will come from emotional ways of providing generosity, via forgiveness, via mercy, via understanding or empathizing with someone else's pain when they are unkind to you. You can do this. Again, these are qualities any one of us can manifest in us, irrespective of money, because these are core qualities. But say if you don't have money, then you do this more. When you have money, you can afford to be a little bit ruder, you can afford to be a little bit unkinder, you can afford to be a little bit stricter. But if you are that way also, your generosity then will come where it has to come. It doesn't matter how rude you are. Look at Steve Jobs. He was very rude to his employees, but why were so many people still gravitating to his company? They were all gravitating to his company because you can take a little bit of stress also from your boss if you had the right pay, if you have the right appreciation at your work, if what you do brings some value to you and your work, then you will continue. And there are also other people who gravitated, who were just simply money minded. If they want higher pay, they want to go and work in that place. So there are so many different types of personalities that are there on earth who gravitate to a particular kind of job or particular kind of mindset. So now if you want to cultivate the generosity mindset, yes, if we are in the baby stages of being generous, we are slowly trying to give that which we have never given before. So if I own two phones, I can give one phone to someone else. But say I am, and I will do that when I am, say, a middle class person or a lower middle class person, and every, say, 4 years I'm buying a new phone, I will give my old phone to the maid. I can do that if the maid is also accepting of what I am giving, right? But say I am a rich person. If a rich person who is, say, a multimillionaire or a billionaire or in the higher socio-economic status of a country, if they give a old phone, is that generous of them? In the context of what they are doing, yeah, maybe sometimes they can give a old phone. But what would be even more generous? not simply giving an old phone, but setting up some mechanism where their phone usage is more beneficial to them, setting up some mechanism where if you have given a phone, you give them a newer phone, setting up a system such that just simply giving a phone is not enough. If their person who works for them lives in conditions where access to electricity is not there, can giving them a phone be of any benefit at all? No benefit. If that person, if you're giving the phone to, doesn't have any children, doesn't have any dependents, doesn't even care about materialistic goods, again, if you want to be generous to them also via some giving them something, it becomes invaluable to them, it becomes immaterial to them, because they don't need it. I recently read a Buddha's story where it was saying that there was a rich man who came to Buddha and gave him a lot of money and said, please take this money and help me. Buddha refused to take the money. Now, Buddha's principle was what he was going from place to place after he has achieved his enlightenment. He also was moving around the country teaching his principles. And when he was moving around, he does need money to, but instead of money, what was he taking? He was taking bhiksha. Matlab, he was being the person who was asking for alms from people. Whoever gives him good food, whoever gives him good shelter, he was accepting whatever bhiksha he was given, whatever he was given, he was ready to take. But at this time, even after he's willing to take, when he's begging people for alms and he's willing to take food or shelter, whatever the people give him, why is he also refusing the money? He kept refusing the money, and eventually he told that guy why that money was immaterial. That's why he was refusing the money, because that guy, whatever problems he wants to solve, his life's problems are not solvable by simply him having money, which is what many of us currently on earth have to awaken to eventually in our life, that enough money is not enough to just be abundant in life. It is a class of abundance that has been prevalent for many centuries, but in that abundance also there is a good abundance and there is a bad abundance. That's why they say money is a root of all evil. Because when does money become a root of all evil? Money becomes a root of all evil if you give money or use money to do evil acts. Say I give a money to a drug addict and I didn't discern they are a drug addict, that is fine. But if I have discerned that this person is a drug addict, if I give the money to the drug addict, what is going to happen? It is going to cause more health harm to that person. And in that health harm, say that drug addict is also got some dependence, then as a consequence of the addiction, his dependence also will get more harmed. So just giving money to a drug addict is not the right donation, right? Then what should you be involved in? If you are encountering a lot of drug addicts in your area where you want to do some generous activity and they are all in the similar addiction modes or similar kind of addictions are going on, then there is something in their lifestyle, life patterns, life choices, socioeconomic status, mental health problems that they have, which are causing them towards going into addiction. They could have social problems that they have no family, so they don't care whether they are addicted or not addicted, because not having family or not having any support system means that they can't go and cry to anyone, they can't go and ask help from anyone, they can't have anyone who's dependent on them. So even if they hold a job, it is valueless to them. That's why they could be addicted. They could be addicted because in the past they had a lot of abuse and they can't handle the way they were abused by someone, because of which they could be addicted. They could be addicted because their thoughts are plagued with all darkness, and there's no way they know, no one has taught them how to dispel the darkness from their thoughts. That's why they could be addicted, that they want these crazy thoughts to go away. They could also be addicted because they could have some empathetic abilities which allows them to see the darkness in other humans, but it also scares them, because of which they could have addiction. So whatever the reason, they could also be addicted that they were abused a lot continuously in their family, and they don't know better how to change and shift their trajectory of abuse and addiction. They have had a family history, long family history, then also they could be addicted. So now all these 5-6 different criteria that makes a person an addict. if in a particular area you meet 10 addicts, 10 of them will have 10 different stories. Now, but even though 10 of them will have 10 different stories, some of them will have some common overlap in what was causing that addiction. And then if you want to help those people, you've decided that this is the group I will help, you have to find the right way of helping them, right? Because if you give them even in US this has happened with me. I used to work as a pharmacist, and there was this ethical question that always used to come up, that sometimes these addicts would come, the ones who do injectable addiction, they would come to buy injectable needles from us, because they have been taught this, that you have to use safe needles when injecting yourself with a drug. So they want those needles. Now for me, I was the kind, I decided, my ethics is that I will not support you for your addiction. So I will not give you the needle only. But the other person who has some more compassion than me, or who thinks that that is the compassionate choice, there are other people, other pharmacists who will sell them these syringes and needles. Why? Because they feel it is better to sell them the syringe, and it will cause less societal harm, because now they are not sharing the syringe, because of which if any one addict has, say, AIDS or some disease, it will not spread from addict to addict. They are at least able to prevent the spreading of the disease. What is the actual solution though? Neither of this is the actual solution. Actual solution for these addicts doesn't lie in what I'm selling to them. It does lie in that if I stop selling them what they're seeking, at least some of them might stop themselves from going this path. Those who are absolutely in the depths of addiction, they won't care if they get whatever needle they get. They will be the ones really struggling with addiction, and for them it is about, if they don't get the drug, they might die. That's why they will continuously keep seeking any syringe. If the dirty syringe is there, they will take that. But the one who's in the beginning journey of the addiction, if I have supplied the syringe to them, I have opened the gateway for them getting into addiction a little bit more. So my purpose is also the right, and this other guy's purpose is also right if the other guy sells the syringes. But even then, even though my purpose is right, his purpose is right, what is the better purpose that can merge from both of these is that you provide them clean syringes, but also you provide, along with the clean syringes, a system of care where they don't have to go into addiction. We develop a system of health where people who are abused get the right treatment and counseling for their abuse, because abuse is very difficult to get out of. Your constant energy body has been wrecked up so much by past abuse that the trauma from it can arise from many places, many ways, and already being poor, you are already traumatized according to the socio-economic condition of your life. So if with poverty you also have other problems going on, it adds to the addiction, right? So that's why you have to make the right approaches come up. When two people have a different train of thought, there is a way to merge those train of thoughts into the right path to emerge for a person. So like that, when I'm seeing all these videos of all these men, and I saw many men do that, who are going and giving generous money donations to the poor, or if someone has been kind to them and generous to them, they are giving the money, or they are also doing social experiments because of racism. So their social experiment lies in the fact that if a dark skinned person or a non-white person in America or Canada, any of these places, goes and asks for help, are they getting help? This is what some of them are doing. Some of them are doing that if a poor goes and asks for help, are they getting help from someone? Now in those posts also, there is a good thing and a bad way to do it. It's good that some of the social experiments, if they've done it for a few times, 10 times, 100 times, you have now collected enough data from those social experiments to understand different mindsets of different people. And only when you have actually understood the different mindsets of different people, then only you can also understand why kindness will not come easily from everyone. Not everyone is kind also in the same way. Kindness's definition is not just that you ask me for money and I give you money, because that kindness will also lead you to do what? Being taken advantage of by someone. that someone will keep asking me for money, give me money, give me money, give me money, and you have money, you're giving them. Giving them money is okay if they are in trouble or occasionally if they need a break. But if that person is a rich person who has access to a lot of money, and all that they have become is a void of wanting to keep consuming more and more and more. Like Kumbhakaran, if you are from Indian, know about Indian mythology from Ramayana, there is a Kumbhakaran, brother of Ravan, who keeps consuming food and just sleeping, consumes food and sleeps. Why? Because he has nothing else that he decided to do in his life. All he has managed to do in his life is eat and sleep and maybe help with the war. These are the three activities he managed to learn in his life. Because he is partly in some ways, even though it's not described like that, he is a disabled person. He doesn't understand the purpose to life is not simply eating and sleeping and fighting wars. But he has reduced himself to that level. So if you continuously, and he was able to do it, why? Because his brother was rich, his brother was a king who could supply him with huge amounts of food. That's why he didn't have that problem. And his brother also had a problem of consumption, but his brother's problem of consumption was consuming more and more power, spiritual power, to do some spiritual level stuff, more and more kingly power to become the king. Whatever his brother Ravana was doing, that was Ravana's excess consumption, which was, both of which was evil. That's why that evil had to be fought. But like how overconsumption is a problem, over giving to the wrong person is also a problem. You should give, but you have to also learn to give the right way. Simply because someone asks us to give is just the first step of understanding whether we want to give, whether we are generous, whether we should give. But if there are people who have been refusing in these social experiments to give, it is not necessary. For some, yes, it could be that racism is involved. For some, yes, it could be that they are really ungenerous and don't like to give. But for some, it could also be they are really poor. They themselves are struggling with finances, and so they don't have that generosity mindset right now because they're too wrapped up in their troubles. For some, it could also be that their life has been so hard that no one helped them, so they decided, I can't help anyone. For some, it can be that they have this instinct that they can tell when someone is just manipulating them to give them something. And some people don't like to be manipulated. I am that kind of a person. I don't like to be manipulated. Sometimes in India, there are people on the roads I don't give to, or sometimes I hesitate to give to them. And I had to discern the difference. Why am I hesitating to give to X when I don't hesitate to give to Y? Sometimes it is my own personality change that if I'm feeling generous, I will give. But sometimes it's also because if I see an able-bodied person who can actually physically do some labor, physically be able to do some work, should I give that person money or should that person find work? Whereas if I find a disabled person on the street who is not able to function because they are disabled, either mentally disabled or physically disabled, if I do give them some money, it has some benefit. If I do go and get them some food, it has some benefit. But again, if you want a cleaner society, better society, more generous society, what is the better solution even for the homeless? Finding a better quality homeless shelter for them that examines their problem, understands why they are homeless, delves deeper into their homelessness. Because some people are partly also homeless. I met a person who said he's partly homeless. That sometimes he goes and stays with his brother. Sometimes he has enough money to give to his brother, who allows cousin or someone who allows him to stay with him. And sometimes he doesn't have the money to stay because he hasn't begged enough, so his brother doesn't allow him to stay. All sorts of things are there with different people. And he also showed some problems where he seemed like he had some mental health issues. So now what he's saying could be a 10-year-old story. It may not be a recent story. What he's also saying might be a recent story, but it's also fudged up because he has some mental health issues. So whatever it is, if I am a social worker, I have to do this deep delving. But if in order for a social worker to do these deep delving into someone's personality or doing these social experiments, if you don't learn the right lessons from those experiments or from a case study of a patient, will we make mistakes that are not in social systems and social service, it's a little harder to get funds also. It is also a little harder not just to get access to funds, but to understand where to dispense the funds the right way. And social systems are usually very burdened in governments. So if social systems are getting burdened in a government, lot of homeless population is increasing in a particular place, who has to step in? The citizens only have to step in some ways, and the richer, more affluent people or their kids, if they are not working but they are looking for a life purpose, those people only have to step in. There are many people who are, I met in recent years, some people who are jobless, but they have enough money in their bank that even if they are jobless for a few years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, they will be okay even with the joblessness at the rate at which they spend their money. So for those people also, social work is the next step they have to take, but the right social work that aligns with them, right? And in that, just simply giving away money doesn't become the right social work just because you're seeing so many people donating money. You need to start donating money the right way. Some of these YouTube channel people, if they live in the same locality or in the same, near the same cities, they can also start collaborating with each other to build a better social system, where it is not simply about giving money to someone, but about seeing whether after giving the money, helping them set up a better quality life. What if someone is getting into debt and is poor, not because they had a hard life, but because they are gambling away their money? What if someone is, after getting money, going into prostitution, gambling, drug addiction? While they're clean when they are poor or on the streets, they don't stay clean when they have excess money. So all those problems also have to be resolved. So when you are generous, think carefully about what are you becoming generous about. Is that the right path? The more carefully we think, the more, if not think, use your heart as well as thoughts, as well as connect to God, because God will always provide you better and better ways for doing something that maybe 10 people have already done it. But if in those 10 people's answers also the right answer hasn't emerged for certain groups of people, then maybe you are the 11th person who has to develop a new way using the 10 different ways that have already been tried, right? And another generosity is this, that you have to increase your salary pays for the minimum wage worker so that they also live a cleaner lifestyle. We also have to understand cleaner lifestyle, balanced lifestyle, healthier lifestyle. If your workers don't have the energy to do the right work, how will they do the work that you are expecting them to do? They can't have the energy to do the right work if they are constantly struggling with a home life, if they are constantly struggling with a pay, if they are constantly fighting to just stay afloat in the city in which they are living. And also, if you've given them a good salary also, and this is where money will not work for certain people and certain places, not enough money is there to resolve this problem, because this problem needs to be resolved at a core level, which is the problem of earth pollution. If you are living in a city where earth pollution levels have really escalated to a heightened maximum level in water pollution, air pollution, and food pollution, and even clothing pollution, or even homes are polluted now, those cities are really at high risk for losing a lot of their worker population, which also likely happened during COVID. If people are doing these population health studies, they might know about this better, that more densely populated city, more polluted cities were likely the cities where more COVID deaths happened or more severe hospitalizations happened from COVID. So because COVID was as a result of air and water and food and clothing pollution, all of these were, and home pollution, all of these were factors. It's just that those factors haven't emerged out yet because not enough deeper level analysis of COVID has been done. And while for COVID, the evident air pollution related paradigms, many people can still structurally and functionally understand. What people don't understand is water pollution is a major problem right now on earth, where and because water is such a easily soluble thing that anything dissolves in water, many chemicals that pollute water aren't easily visible to us. because of which we consume water thinking it is healthy water when it is not healthy. And after consumption of that water, bathing in that water, doing many things in that water that our daily life requires, we are adding to our health problems, which if you are poor, they have more health problems because their access to cleaner food, water, air, clothing, shelter, everything is off. If you are rich, maybe you have access to some of these clean aspects, but even then when you are rich, if from where your food is coming doesn't have the right food, water, air, supply chain to provide you the right food, your high amount of money will not do anything. You're going and building, even because there are many people in India who are rich, who have built hospitals, who are building healthcare facilities for the people who might be dying of certain diseases. And this was an old paradigm you had to do, because when earth pollution was less, just treating people was enough. If there is a say a industrialist, that industrialist has also done studies which their work has done studies which show that this industrialization causes these health harm. So they decided, and which is what happened in US healthcare systems, that industrialization in US led to people first finding out that certain industrial workers are getting sick because of certain work conditions, which led to them giving insurance to their population, which led to, after giving insurance to their population, their motivation behind giving insurance is so that to take care of the people who are their workers. Or some other countries have done in India, they have built hospitals so that their workers can get free treatment, access to treatment. That was the initial motivation of creating those hospitals. But there is more to the story. If you have built a hospital when the earth was cleaner, it worked for those people who had who got the most exposure to the chemicals, and as a result were most sick, and you gave them treatment. Who are even moderately sick, you are continuously giving them treatment after retirement by giving them IRA accounts in US, or by giving them some other government benefits to help them get the treatment. But when it has become a systemic level chronic problem at multiple levels, then just simply providing him a hospital, anyone a hospital, doesn't work anymore. Because if complex set of conditions are making massive amounts of population sick, it means that complex set of systems have to change so that massive amount of population doesn't stay sick or doesn't overload the healthcare systems of any country. Which is what happened during COVID. Many healthcare systems of many countries got overloaded because so many people were falling sick at the same time. And that is the reason why people have to change. That not enough healthcare systems, not enough medicines are there on earth to treat you when already your body is overloaded with chemicals. So if you want to be generous, if you are a rich person, your generosity now has to come in making, if you're a rich person, if you're a person in power, if you're a person who is able to make the higher level decision making in governance, in you have the government connections, you have the hospital connections, you have the healthcare system funding connections, because you are the government that funds healthcare of your country and other countries. If you are a private person who funds healthcare for different countries, all these people now have to jointly work towards solving the global problem that the pandemic showed is systemically present in all our countries. If it wasn't a systemic problem, it wouldn't have risen to the pandemic level. So systemic solutions, global solutions are needed. So those higher level people can't do the lower level generous stuff that lower level people have to do. But what can lower level people do if we are trying to solve pollution problem? We can also, in the individual scale, reduce earth pollution by reducing the number of chemicals we use in our daily lives. We can also start reducing earth pollution by the overconsumption that is going on in many of us. That overconsumption also needs to be balanced, so that so if you want to be generous to a poor person or a homeless person, you can also be generous to them by reducing your consumption of the cheaper food, so that those people can access those cheaper foods. Like say banana is very easily available in India, Banana costs only like 10 rupees for one banana, 2 bananas in India. If we leave that banana for the poor person who is a daily wage worker, banana being nutritious will help them. And how will we help ourselves by leaving it to them? We are being indirectly generous by letting them consume the banana so that the rich person doesn't. And don't let the banana rot. So if you are seeing that no one is buying banana from someone, that is also not the right way. Eat the banana, but make sure that if you are a farmer, that the banana stays clean, it's pesticide free, chemical free, because it's so easily bought and sold by people. So does a banana tree need any extra ripening agents, any extra chemicals? Nothing, because it's a in demand crop. And if you do have some crop failure, you can absorb the cost by increasing your prices a little bit more. So don't be fearful of losing some crops if you stop using pesticides. Same way with any staple food of India that is mass produced and massively in demand. Like now mango season is going to come. Don't give chemicals to mangoes, because your mangoes will be sold. You don't need to chip in the price, nothing. Just allow the mangoes to grow in the right ways, and your mangoes will definitely sell. I reduced buying mangoes only because I couldn't handle the chemicals in the mangoes anymore. So I either go for organic mangoes, but even in organic, if say the farmer has raised it organically, but the transporter, while transporting it in the vehicle, uses chemicals to keep his vehicles clean, then again the mango is not organic anymore. So then also I will get chemicals in the mango, which will impact my health. And when I had heightened health problems, I just couldn't consume a little bit of pesticide in any food that I consume, be it mango, be it banana, be it small nuts. Again, nuts are also right now a staple food many are eating. Lentils are staple food many are eating. Rice, whatever is a staple food that many consume, they don't need chemicals for those farmings anymore. First of all, the land and soil and water of those areas are already saturated with pesticides. So if you have used pesticides for 50 years, your land has already 50 years worth of pesticides now, which will take time to get replenished or slowly dissipate away via chemical breakdown or whatever. So if you give the land a rest, nothing will happen. Enough pesticides are there. If some pests also come, then do some supportive measures so that birds can also stay there, so that the birds can eat the insects. That is how you slowly build up the ecosystem of a place which has becoming barren. Because if a place is starting to become barren, it means it's starting to go towards a desert like condition. If it goes to the desert like condition, then nothing can be grown, it will become a desert. But if you don't want it to go into a desert like condition, you have to do the opposite. You have to replenish the soil, you have to give it manure, you have to give it enough biological systems for that place to not turn into a desert. You have to do the opposite of the trend that causes a place to become desert, which means you have to change back, reverse, do things the opposite of what you have learned so far, which is causing a place to become barren, which is causing trees to die, which is causing humans to die. The only way to prevent humans from dying is to stop all the things that are causing humans to die, not simply put a medicine. Because when you are at the death level, when you are at a near death level, when you are at a severe illness level, stopping is more important than providing medicine for some people. And for many of us, we are at near death level, severe health crisis level. That's why 40-year-olds have died during COVID. It's simply that the doctors are not seeing and studying the inherent symptoms that were present, not in a medical report, but present in how the patient is looking, what is their skin color, what are the dark circles under their eyes, what is the work pressure they have, all these things, what is their family history. If there are 3 people in their family who already died from COVID, there is a high chance that person will also be dying or near death or severely ill internally. It's just that externally, to a less discerning eye, it seems that they don't have anything. Because compared to the one who is severely distressed, yes, maybe this person doesn't look severely distressed, but there are many people who have this Shahan's Shakti that they say in Hindi, they have this inner resilience and strength, where even if they are got 100 problems in their life, outwardly they will not look like they have 100 problems. With Sadhguru, he recently had some brain surgery or something, but almost a few 5-6 years back or 10 years back, I think one video was made where he was talking that doctors had found in his blood system many bacteria and many harmful things in his body, and he looked physically so healthy, and he was physically healthy until now when he had his operation. But in this meantime, before that, when that original video and testing were done on his body, and now in these 5, 6, 10 years, I don't remember how many years gap has happened, what happened to him was all the chemicals, all the biological toxins, whatever they had found in his blood that showed that he is sick, they finally manifested as a disease condition that led him to get this surgery done. Which, if he had become mindful even in those 10 years, what is causing him to become this sick, even this surgery was avoidable. Even him, because in 10 years, whatever was developing in his body continued developing. He just looked healthy. Why was he looking healthy? Because he does so many spiritual things. His spiritual power gave him the power to resist some of the toxins, which if he wasn't that spiritual, he would have died. His spiritual power gave him, because he had to teach so many people so many things. That's why in the meantime, God gave him that protection to stay healthy, even though internally things were going wrong in his body. He looks outwardly healthy, he speaks to so many people, he is dispensing all the spiritual knowledge, so he is outwardly looking fine, but inwardly all the things that were found in his body were doing some damage, which eventually manifested as something now. And why did it happen now? Because in recent years he was also doing this tour of different countries using his bike. So while he's traveling, apart from now the microbial toxins that had been found in his blood, what else was happening to him? Chemical toxins were getting inhaled by him everywhere he went. From city to city, he gathered different chemicals and inhaled different chemicals. Plus the bike ride itself, if his bike was not maintained properly, that would have added to his toxin. If he had a huge entourage following him, if their vehicles were not maintained appropriately, those vehicles pollution was getting into his lungs. All of these combined, while it is getting inhaled in his lungs, inhalation also, some of the inhalational gases come down, some of it goes up also, and whatever has gone up or got distributed via our circulatory system into our brain, those are the things which were inhaled that went up and inhaled via nasal passages and up into the brain cells, or that were inhaled and were absorbed via the circulatory cardiovascular system first, and then eventually slowly accumulated in his brain. All of them combined led to his brain related problems, which if he hadn't done this tour, he could have sat home and also done this clean earth tour by just sitting at home and not traveling. But because he didn't do that, it escalated his health problem. And like Sadhguru, many of us are like that, who in our body some disease might be there in our body, which because of certain health practices that we do, some might be doing spiritual practices, some might be doing physical health practices, the disease is controlled in our body because we are doing some physical health practice or dance practice or singing or meditation or prayer, something we are doing that is keeping the disease at bay. But it is not completely at bay, because if it is a harmful thing in our environment, in our daily life, that is getting continuously accumulated in our body, eventually if it has reached the threshold that our body can't handle, then we end up falling sick. Because Sadhguru's body could handle microbial toxins, because he was also a poor person, and he has been traveling as a spiritual leader for a long time. So his body, and at that time when he was a younger person, he was traveling the earth or India at that time, when he was traveling around in southern India, at those moments he was in a India which was much less polluted than how India or globe is polluted currently. So because of which, when he was younger, what was he developing resistance towards? When he is traveling, his body was slowly developing resistance towards these different microbes from different places that he is traveling. He might have sat with the poor, he might have drunk the water that poor are drinking, food that they are eating. So all these things combined in his body, all these microbes are, that's why, found in him. That for 50-60 years he was traveling everywhere and he collected all these microbes. But because he was being spiritual, also because there is a natural immunity that can develop in our body also over time of exposure to things, so both of these combined gave him the immunity to the microbes. But when he grew up, when he was young, or when he was traveling as a young person, the earth that was there is different from the earth that is there now. And he had a gap of possibly a few years where he didn't travel much. When he was living, he had gone to America, so he was living in more cleaner country than India. So automatically his immunity now goes down a little, because even though for 50-60 years in Indian environment he has traveled and gained resistance while living in a more polluted country, the same person, when he has gone to a different country where the pollution levels are less, his body's natural resistance and immunity has now shifted, because our body is an adaptive mechanism. It shifts. It's not simply like a car, that a car in India will function. And even in a car it is same thing. If I have one car, say a Prius, if I drive a Prius in India and drive a Prius in US, both of them, even if it is made by the same company, same manufacturing plant, it came say from Japan, from the same plant, same batch, they're just two, one after the other manufactured car, and one comes to India, one goes to US. Even there they will function differently in India and US, because the Indian car, because of heightened air pollution in India, and also if the oil in India is not as good quality as what we will get in US, both of these will determine. And the tires also in India, if they need to be replenished, the roads in India are not as well maintained, all of these, if the car goes to a well-maintained city of US where air pollution is also less, where it is a very contrasting city than Indian city, both of them will function differently. So if a car can function so differently, its filters will get polluted sooner and need to get changed sooner. Its tires might need to get changed sooner if lots of potholes are there. If the road construction is poor quality, again tires will need to be changed. So see how we are adding to the pollution to even a car, simple car. And that same car in a different country will not need any maintenance. So now if that car is brought to India, just because it's a car, again if you flip the two cars, they can easily take each other's place. But humans are not like that. Human body needs some time to adjust and adapt. And because of which, if he once he came back, after he came back from his US tour, he immediately went into a world tour. That's why his body couldn't adapt to the conditions of the Asian countries where pollution levels are high. I think he mostly went in Asia. I didn't follow him as much, so I don't know all the trajectory. But I hope this makes sense as to why we fall sick, how we fall sick, how our body adapts to certain chemicals and things in our environment, but only until the point where our body can also stop failing eventually, when the enough toxins in our body is such that it can't be fought anymore by us. And it's at that time, yes, medical intervention has happened, but what will be a better intervention for him along with this intervention is him and everyone else who follows him, or everyone else who wants to lead a lifestyle like him. We all have to realize that if we are doing spiritual work or physical health work or earth pollution related work, earth pollution, he was doing the soil, save soil, because he wants to save the soil of the earth from being polluted. And he has risen to the right things. He has also risen to the fact that you have to plant a lot of trees now in order to save water, retain clean water, all those things. You have to have more plants also. In order to save wildlife also, you have to have more trees. So he's doing the step by step right thing. But out of all these things, other things that are required is we need clean air, clean water, clean clothes, clean vehicles that are chemical free when we are traveling, roads that are relatively chemical free and kept off all the fumes and all the toxins that harm our health. and we can only do it slowly only, step by step only. Not all industries can suddenly shut down also. It has to gradually only happen, because if it suddenly also shuts down, some people's heightened adaptive mechanisms can then shut down, because our body is now used to at a high stress level. If today I want to go to US, and if I am sick, which I am, if I go immediately to US, I will fall sick there. When I was healthier, when I traveled from India to US, I wouldn't have fallen sick. But now if I go to a cleaner place, immediately I'll fall sick. So I have to go to a less cleaner place, then a little less cleaner place, then a little step by step cleaner places. Then only my health will recover from some of the toxins that are impacting my health. That is the way slow detoxing has to happen. It's the same thing with addict patients. When their body is overloaded with chemicals, those patients who are addicts, they are taking either one drug or multiple drug, and their body is overloaded with chemicals. And if addict suddenly can't, if one is a very severe addict, you can't cold turkey quit it. There are some people who can cold turkey quit, but only if you weren't a severe addict, or only if your body has some other resilience going on in the body. Otherwise, normal people, if we quit immediately, we will fall sicker. You will get those shivers. That is what addicts get. But same is true of humans too. If my body is toxed out with many chemicals from my water, food, clothing, air, suddenly stopping all 5 sources of chemical contamination will cause illness in me, because my body is used to functioning at a heightened chemical pollution level. So I have to slowly taper down the chemical usages in my daily life in order to become accustomed to going more towards a healthy life, right? And you can do one instant day thing is possible only for those people who are heightened masters like Sadhguru, who could exist with so much biological toxin in his body, but he couldn't retain the chemical toxin. Likewise, there could be someone else who has lived in highly polluted, say, chemical factory settings. They are existing with heightened chemical toxins in their blood, which any other normal human being, if they were to live in that area, they wouldn't be able to function and survive. So every one of us develops a mechanism to survive through what we have trained ourselves to survive through, consciously or subconsciously. Sadhguru wasn't meditating about bacteria surviving in his body, but even then bacteria survived in his body because he was meditating on becoming spiritually accepting of animals causing harm, other people causing harm. So microbes, also being a planetary creature, it came under his larger scope of meditations or whatever he does to stay. I am not a major follower of him, so I don't know what are his spiritual practices, but he does some spiritual practices which I have understood from his talks, and those same spiritual practices kept him alive from the microbial toxins. Now if he starts doing his spiritual practice to keep safe in a chemical toxin environment, he will again gain that resilience too, possibly. But for that, while he gains the resilience, some people on earth like him gain the resilience. Majority of the people on earth still have to start detoxing from the chemical exposures by slowly stopping the usage, because that is the better health aligned solution for everyone. Him being a ascetic saint and traveling so many places led him to have this exposure to so many microbes, but because he had a higher purpose, he got protected. But not everyone has that higher purpose. So if that some ordinary person is also traveling like Sadhguru, there are many ordinary persons who travel like Sadhguru who also, because of a consequence of, say, if they are a seller, if they are a farmer, if they are a retailer, they are also traveling, but they are also falling sick and dying also from their travels, because earth pollution has to be stopped. That is the next thing everyone has to wake to. So I hope it was meaningful. I started with social service and I went into earth pollution because saving earth from dying is also a social service. It's not simply a social service, but it is a protective mechanism, because earth is our home. The cleaner your home is, the cleaner, same way if you're a spiritual person, the cleaner your body is, the healthier you stay. Same way, earth is our home. The cleaner the earth is, the healthier all of us will be on earth. The cleaner our homes are, the healthier we'll be. But this is not the cleanliness that comes with using chemicals everywhere. That is where we have gone wrong, because earth has a natural mechanism to keep everything clean and balanced, and that natural aligned mechanism we have to understand now to become more aligned, more balanced with nature, to understand what is a clean, truly a clean home, truly a clean earth. When we don't have it, those places of India where there were floods, where there were droughts, where there are earthquakes, places globally where we have had volcanoes, tornadoes, tsunamis, those are the places where the misalignment with earth's natural systems is so bad. That's why those places face those natural calamities. It's just that people don't understand it. The signs of earth having distress in that area shows up 10-20 years before, like how Sadhguru's body was showing that his body has too many microbes. That was partly a distress signal also. He had to start becoming more mindful and careful about not consuming just food anywhere, not making sure that the food he's consuming is the right food. Now he has to do that practice after his surgery, right? And that is the way to stay healthy. So likewise, when earth is also polluted, or we have added a lot of toxins in our life, they have to slowly get cleaned away, detoxed away, taken away, stopped from growing, because it leads to health harm. And also because people are fearful usually of change, because people think that if we change, what if when we change we won't have a solution to the job we are doing? What if I change, I won't be able to keep my homes clean? But there are natural better alternatives to keeping your homes clean, to managing a better health, to doing things that are better for your health. But those pathways won't open until you're open to actually changing. So first you have to shift your mind to understanding that change has to happen, because health harm is happening from something you're doing regularly. Once that shift has happened, then only you can go to the next. Because how did Sadhguru one fine day suddenly get the insight that soil needs to be protected, the Narmada belt has to be protected? No, slowly in his travels he saw something which gave him the vision to understand what needs changing. And when he had the vision first at the subconscious level, then only it came as a conscious manifestation of what he spoke out to the people. And then once he spoke out, because first if he just speaks out and there is no base of population who understand what he's saying, then also it wouldn't manifest. So in order for that to manifest, 30-40 years he had to spend first as a spiritual leader, connecting to many people in those lands where he's planting these trees. After he has connected, then only he could take all these next step. Like that, our life is like that. We have to change and shift our perspective about what is a cleaner earth, what is a cleaner home, what is a cleaner life. It won't happen in day one of someone saying it to you, and it won't happen until you get some context. And that context is supposed to come from the deaths of the people in our family, or deaths of the people who have died from COVID, or other things that we learn from. So I hope this was educational, and if not educational, or if it is confusing, please post a comment. I would be happy to answer your comment. And understanding this, that what you want to be generous about can be at different level. It doesn't always have to be about money. It has to, for some reason, be about thoughts. For some people it has to be a shift in what they do. For some people it has to be an entire shift in the research field, medical field, work field that they are working on currently, which needs to shift to align back to a less polluted earth. I hope that makes sense, and thank you very much for listening.